Soon as we get everything connected for our live stream, we'll get started. That's our sign. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see a good crowd tonight. I know you all came for my last meeting, so thank you for making the attempt. I'm sure the signs were all going to say we're going to miss you, but it doesn't look like that. So, but again, we appreciate you being here. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And before we get started, Neil wants to do a quick reminder. So, Neil.
Thank you. So this is directed to the board members. At your seats, you will find a survey about topics for the 2026 board orientation, which will be held on Thursday, January 15th at 6 p.m. Please complete the survey tonight and leave it at your table. Staff will come around and collect them after the meeting ends. And obviously your input will inform the program for the orientation next year. And that is for both returning members as well as new members to the CRTPO board.
Okay, Neil, I appreciate that. So everybody's got a little bit of homework before you leave, if you would get that filled out. And if we could go ahead and get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to open up our public comment period. Again, we appreciate a great attendance this evening. Our policy is that we have 20 minutes allotted for public comments. It is not the board's practice to respond to public comment, and each speaker will have 3 minutes at the podium. We do ask that you are professional in nature in your comments. Again, we will not engage in any information back. We'll just take your comments in. And again, we'll take the speakers as I call them up. We try to keep it in order as people signed up. And once we reach that 20-minute time period frame, then we'll move on to our regular agenda. So we're going to start out with Mr. Carson Cone. I know you're here somewhere. Mr. Carson, go ahead and start. It's good. He'll be next. Welcome, Mr. Cone. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, everyone. I realize that in past meetings, I have indicated an acceptance of the proposed express lanes for I-77 South. However, tonight I shift my stance. Despite me sitting in nearly every meeting for over a year and attending working group meetings, I was shocked at the proposed level of impact to those who live near I-77 South.
Excuse me, we will not have outburst, or we will clear the room, and we will not have public comment. It is at my discretion. So again, I would appreciate your professionalism and respect to the board. Thank you. Continue, Mr. Cone.
I appreciate it anyway. But I was shocked at the proposed level of impact to those who live on I-77 South with the various proposals for the project. Even if an elevated express lane were constructed, the amount of residents whose quality of life would be diminished, including home values decrease, is alarming. I also go back to the fact that it is unfair for the government to take public resources such as airspace along with land and use such resources to create a luxury that only the rich can afford. However, I propose tonight that the CRTPO explore another option, which I've not yet heard mentioned, but that a concerned friend of mine in the crowd tonight shared with me. In the city of Boston, there was a project called the Big Dig that occurred between the 1980s and 2000s. This project was an underground roadway, which did result in a fatality, but I can't imagine lessons were learned. As a compromise, I propose the CRTPO explore such a project with the possibility of making underground lanes entirely express and having the vendor pay for the entirety of the project because of that extra revenue generation. This combined with the increasing population in the Charlotte region would, I think, make up for the increased costs to the vendors. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cone. We appreciate that. Our next speaker, Al Austin. Is that correct? Mr. Austin, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes once you get started. How about that?
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. I want to first thank you for your service to the communities that govern this body. My name is Al Austin. I am the president of the Third Ward Neighborhood Association, and I'm also a former Charlotte City Councilman, and I'm a native Charlottean who has lived the past history associated with the building of I-77 and I-85 highway. The Third Ward Neighborhood Association is located in Uptown Charlotte with boundaries of Charlotte City Center at I-77 and Trade and I-77 and Moorhead. I stand before you in strong opposition to the proposed widening of I-77 and South Express lanes as it stands. Let me get a little personal here. Approximately 50 years ago, as a little boy growing up in Lincoln Heights community, I watched my community get torn apart when I-77 and I-85 pushed through our neighborhoods at LaSalle and Newland Roads. I watched families disappear. I watched friends move away from neighborhoods like Lincoln Heights, Delbrooks, McQuarrie Heights, Double Oaks, Druid Hills, Oaklawn Park. Communities that were full of life were sliced in half. Now, after decades, instead of repairing and reconnecting these communities after past harm, we're now being asked again to accept even more destruction, more construction, more concrete, more pollution, more loss. Our neighborhoods have carried the burden of these decisions for generation, and we're still feeling the weight of them today. The chamber this evening is filled with leaders and residents who have lived along these 11 miles of the planned project and are in opposition and will share their reasons why. As a representative for the Third Ward, we oppose this project for the following. The verdict is still out on the effectiveness of the managed lanes north, achieving the goal of moving traffic effectively and faster. One of the jewels of Third Ward neighborhood is Frazier Park, which is used by thousands of people from Wesley Heights, from Fourth Ward, from West End residents. This park has a dog park, basketball court, tennis courts, playgrounds, and many other amenities that are supported by the city, the county, and our neighborhood. Please do not touch. We need more green space and not more gray slabs. So tonight, I'm asking you respectfully, passionately, and directly to reconsider your support for this project plan as it stands. Please listen to the voices of the residents that are affected tonight. Let's restore and not destroy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Our next one, Michael, and Michael, I apologize. I'm not able to. Yeah, come on down. Tell us your name when you get there. I apologize.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Bermudez, and the reason why I'm here today is public safety. And I feel like that is a very important issue for everybody, regardless of party affiliation. We've noticed there have been recent tragedies on the light rail, specifically Irina Zarutska's murder back in August. And the biggest thing that I want to bring up is that people do not feel safe on the public transportation. Wherever they go, they're always looking to make sure that they're safe. And we should be able to ride the transit system, ride the buses without fear of, God forbid, being stabbed. And what I think makes matters worse is that we have a mayor that wants to make excuses for criminals and wants to say it is a quote unquote mental health crisis that we can't police our way out of, but won't do anything to stand with the victims. And that, that brings me to my next thing, which was, it was a national disgrace and it made national news. And I feel like out of solidarity for the family and out of respect for Irina, I'm calling for the East-West station to be renamed the Irina Zarutska station. And I feel like that is the least that Charlotte can do. And I understand that the mayor has not been vocal on this. So what I'm asking everybody in this committee is if Mayor Lyles will not do her job, if you guys would do the right thing in standing up for Irina Zarutska, for her justice, for her legacy, and a life to be remembered, and then also to push for better policing and better security on public transportation. Since 2018, security has dropped 40% on the public transit. And more recently, there was a 64-year-old veteran that was brutally attacked on the bus in March, left paralyzed. I mean, that's another story I don't think many people heard about. And the transportation in Charlotte is 3 times more dangerous than the national average. So again, these are all concerns that matter to people, even the people that don't live in I'm not originally from Charlotte, so whenever I go to Charlotte, I'm terrified to ride public transportation because I feel like my life is at risk. And Mayor Lyles said that people should she wants people to feel safe. And I'm saying to her, I know she's not here, but I'm saying to her is people don't want to feel safe, they want to be safe. And I don't think that it's an excuse just to say that. So yes, that is my main thing, is to have safer transit and then to push for the station to be renamed the Irina Zarutska Station in her legacy. And thank you for giving me the
Thank you.
chance to speak.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Our next speaker, is it Zaya or Zia? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zia Hibma. I'm 11 years of age, and I'm here today to discuss the critical issue of the I-77 construction project in Charlotte. When we talk about progress and development, we too often forget about the people who are affected the most by it. It's important to remember that this isn't just about transportation, but the possible effects of it on the community. The proposed construction will cut through historic neighborhoods like McCrory Heights, a neighborhood that carries the legacy, pride, and resilience of Charlotte's Black community. Personally, upon seeing the plans for this project, I cried. As a resident of the neighborhood, McCrory Heights isn't just a place on a map. It's a living story, a neighborhood founded by educators and civil rights leaders who helped shape Charlotte's identity. To see the community face displacement or disruption in the name of highway expansion feels wrong. Right now, there are 2 proposed plans, at-grade and elevated. The at-grade option would take out homes in McCrory Heights, while the elevated option would spare most of them. But we can also consider a third option, an underground route that safeguards homes, reduces air and noise pollution, protects the skyline view, and still supports transportation needs. In addition, we can take other paths to improve transportation in an innovative, compassionate way. We can invest in improved public transit, safer bike lanes, and green spaces that support mobility and community life. Progress should not mean erasing history. I feel the voices of residents in McCrory Heights deserve to be heard, not as an afterthought, but as essential voices in the conversation. These are people who have already fought for their right to stay, to preserve their homes, and to protect their heritage. If we let this construction go forward, we will send a message that history and community don't matter. And that is a message that has been proved wrong many times by the residents of the McCrory Heights neighborhood and more. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. And our next speaker, is it Sean Langley? Welcome, Mr. Langley. You have 3 minutes.
I have to come behind that. So, CRTPO board members, I want to briefly discuss the historical significance of McCrory Heights, why the proposed plans by NCDOT don't align with our community, and a better solution for Charlotte. I'm Sean Langley, president of McCrory Heights Neighborhood Association, where I've lived for nearly 20 years. As a resident, I'm fortunate to live in one of America's most iconic historically Black communities in America. The residents that live and have lived in this neighborhood have played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement by dismantling the walls of segregation in Charlotte. Every single home in the neighborhood has a storied history. Despite the NCDOT seizing homes via eminent domain in 1967, constructing Brookshire Freeway through our neighborhood in 1968, and disconnecting us from Uptown and other communities in 1970 when I-77 was constructed. These historical injustices were never corrected, and now our children and seniors inhale and exhale the fumes from the interstate that clog our lungs. We shout at each other in certain streets because the noise is too unbearable to have a normal conversation. And our quality of life is in danger because of these proposed plans to I-77. So after encroaching on our community countless times, we find ourselves at this juncture. Imagine how we must feel to hear plans to expand I-77 freeway once again through our historic, quaint, angelic neighborhood. Pure disgust. And we certainly are opposed to the expansion of NCDOT seizing over 80 homes via eminent domain along this 11-mile stretch. Not in favor of the elevated highways either. It's a visible eyesore, compromises our quality of life, and increases noise and air pollution that do not align with the City of Charlotte's Strategic Energy Action Plan that pledges to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 72% by 2035. Furthermore, these proposed plans encourage car dependency, they decrease our property values, and cause induced demand. Look at cities like Atlanta that have general purpose lanes and toll lanes. Tell me if that solution to traffic congestion has worked. I digress. If CRTPO is really concerned about equity, as your vision statement clearly articulates, you will reconsider the proposed plans for all the reasons I mentioned above. Don't cause unnecessary harm to our neighborhoods. So here's both a compromise and our only viable solution. Be innovative. Be a champion of restorative justice. Lead with equity. Reconnect communities by submerging I-77 underground for both general purpose lanes and toll lanes. By doing this, you are allowing the city to reclaim the space above and reconnect communities. Moreover, this would reduce noise and air pollution and satisfy the needs of this body and NCDOT. Follow the blueprints of other cities like Seattle and Boston that care about the well-being of all their
Mr.
residents.
Langley,
That should be the charge of this body.
Mr. Langley, that's your.
Please
minute.
reconsider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, I should say Mr. Goldstein, is it Shai Goldstein? Oh, there we go. Welcome, Mr. Goldstein. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks for having us all here this evening to hear input. My name is Shai Goldstein. I first moved to Charlotte in 1991, so as you can imagine, I've seen quite a lot of change, growth, and development. Let me start by saying I've been to 33 countries in my life, and I choose to live right here in Charlotte because I love it for what it is. I'm not approaching this discussion about what's bad or good, possible or not possible, wise or unwise, from a position of ignorance. I bought my first home in Charlotte in the university area because living in the city of Charlotte was not desirable at that time. It was like someone threw a big breaker on Fridays and the city shut off. All the life was outside of town. However, with smart and careful development, our city became somewhere where people wanted to be. And I invested in a dilapidated West Side home 22 years ago to be part of this exciting movement. I've been proud of Charlotte for investing in light rail, greenways, trolleys, bike lanes, and making us a more connected and cohesive city. For over 15 years, I've cycled commuted into Center City for work year-round, rain or shine. I haven't driven to the office once. So, when I saw the proposals last week, I was struck with a lot of questions. What urban planners were involved in the design of these proposals? Who thought that increasing the volume and velocity of cars and trucks through the heart of our city is safe, smart, or good for the development, character, or economy of Charlotte? Cities across this country who've made this mistake of building large, high-traffic, high-speed highways through the center of their urban areas in past decades have seen how this has been destructive to their growth and development. From Boston to Kansas City, they've been paying billions to either bury them or remove them altogether because they have learned that adding more traffic through the heart of a city only serves to make it less connected and less desirable. In the past year, I personally have seen traffic tunnels from Sydney, Australia to Colombia, South America. If they can do it in Colombia, South America, we can do it here. Why not make it clear that I-77 is not for through traffic? And if we want to add tolls, make it for those cars and trucks that use 77 as a through road. and then pour those tolls back into improved mass transit connections to quickly and efficiently move people through the city. We can put up signs to do that tomorrow. Cost us nothing. Make it I-77 business and I-77 around, right? As I mentioned, I moved here in 1991. I've seen a lot of plans, but this has got to be the worst I've seen for our great city. Please, I beg of you, stop progress on this plan and work towards an intelligent one, not solely focused on mass moving cars and trucks at the lowest price, because the true cost of this plan to our city is immeasurable. Come on, Charlotte, we're better than this.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Next speaker, Damian Smith. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Thank you to the board. I am asking for you guys to rethink the I-77 project. For $3.2 billion, we could build a much more effective mass transit solution between many of the residents who are using 77 on a regular basis to get from Fort Mills, TGK, and Rock Hill to Uptown for work. It also does not impact my neighbors in McCory Heights. Many, especially those living in the housing authority properties, are of limited resources and would be burdened by the cost if they had to move further out to a different location, not only burdened in terms of cost, but in time for them to get to and from work. And it is unfair to ask these people to move. It is not right. It is wrong. This project does not solve the problem. Repeatedly, we have shown that induced demand, when you widen lanes, whether they are toll lanes or general purpose lanes, within years, you have the same level of congestion. You do not have increased safety. You do not solve the problem with the I-77 widening. So I'm asking that you please reconsider and look at other solutions. Look at mass transit. Look at finding ways to incentivize people getting out of their cars or riding together with coworkers, something. Because again, it doesn't meet the needs of Charlotteans. It doesn't meet the needs of our neighborhoods. It doesn't meet the needs of our low income and moderate income residents. Well, it burdens them. So really, when it comes time to vote and what you're going to do, I'd like you to think about that and ask yourself, well, what if I had to spend an extra $1,000 a year when I'm on a limited income in transit costs and fuel cost and vehicle repairs? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Got time for one more speaker, Chris Hood. Mr. Hood. Welcome, Mr. Hood.
Thank you, board. I'm a resident of the Biddleville Smallwood neighborhood, raising a young family. And I just recently learned of this project, which brings me to my biggest disappointment. There's a lack of communication and there's been a lack of knowledge. Me and my wife attended the community event at John C. Smith a couple weeks ago and had our questions, wanted to understand that surely there is a thought process behind why are these two plans? And all we really got was a false equivalency of, would you like a wall or would you like a moat to separate you from your city? And that really disappointed me. I really would like to see the board come up with innovative ideas that can reconnect our community, create land that the city can benefit from, can build businesses on, create new pathways through the city instead of taking more cars, dumping them into the same grid, and just creating log jams in our city. This doesn't even touch on some of the most egregious thoughts in this project, which are taking away people's homes. So all I ask is, let's be an innovative city. Let's be a city that reconnects. Let's be a city that creates business, that makes Uptown a livable and workable place, not just a block of cars. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, that has brought us to our time on the public comment period. So we're going to move on with our agenda item. We will have an update about the public comment period for the project. As we go through the agenda, you're more than welcome to stay and listen to the rest of our meeting. So moving on, Neil, help us with the ethics and awareness and conflict awareness remind.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflict of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict with respect to any of the matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from participation in the particular matter involved.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I have a procedural question.
Sure.
Would it be permissible under our rules for me to speak to the comments in the room?
Typically, we don't, but if you would like to offer those comments, maybe under the board member comments period of the
Okay.
agenda.
I will. I thank you for the guidance. I will speak to this issue at public comment, which, sorry to say, will be some period of time for those who may want to stick around. I also would like to acknowledge Councilman Malcolm Graham in the room. Thank you.
Okay. Super.
Oh, and Councilwoman-elect Joy Mayo.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Moving on, our agenda item number 5, a consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's presented? Got a motion, a second. Questions on that? Oh, okay. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Be opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, our 2055 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Neil Burke and Nat Hayward from Kimley Horn. Neil, bring us up to speed, and this is an action item this evening.
Yes, this is an action item. There are 2 actions that can be taken simultaneously. The first is to approve corrections to the 2055 MTP roadway project list to account for horizon year amendments based upon the 2026-2035 Transportation Improvement Program project schedules. And the second action is to authorize the release of the draft 2055 MTP report, draft air quality conformity determination report at the time the documents are ready. So an overview of our presentation, I'll talk about the roadway project list corrections. Nat will cover the 2055 MTP documentation. And he will also cover phase 3 public engagement, and I'll close us out with the remaining schedule on this project. So 2025 has been a busy year for the 2055 MTP. We've completed the scenario planning effort, the revenue forecast, the congestion management process, project evaluation, which resulted in the development of the fiscally constrained project list. We had our second phase of public engagement around that fiscally constrained roadway and transit public engagement, or roadway and transit project list, which the board adopted in August. And we are into the 2055 MTP document preparation, and that will be the focus of our third phase of public engagement beginning in January. So moving into the roadway project list corrections. So we adopted the TIP back in October, and we reviewed that against the 2055 MTP fiscally constrained project list for plan consistency purposes. This is a federal requirement. There were 4 changes needed to the 2055 MTP fiscally constrained project list to align with the TIP. 2 projects in the TIP were not included in the 2055 MTP project list and need to be added to the 2035 horizon year within the MTP project list. And then 2 projects have experienced recent schedule changes in the TIP that was adopted and need to be moved from the 2025 to the 2035 horizon year within the MTP project list. These are just routine changes. We haven't adopted the overall 2055 MTP, so we can take care of these tonight. The transit fiscally constrained projects within the 2055 MTP are not changing. So with that, I will turn it over to Nat. He will cover the 2055 MTP documentation.
Excellent. Thanks, Neil. As Neil mentioned, we've had a really busy year in 2025 with our process starting back in 2024 as we've been developing the 2055 MTP. And as we've gone through all the major milestones and development within the plan itself, our step that we're working through now is the
creation of the plan itself, the actual documentation. So what I'd like to do today is at a really high level, just walk the group here through simply an outline of how the plan will look. And we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We had a really solid 2050 MTP, and so we're building off of the outline and the structure of that document itself, and making some tweaks along the way. So here you can see a list of each one of our 9 chapters within the plan. What I'm going to do is kind of walk through each one at a really high level, and I'm happy to answer any questions as needed. So our introduction chapter is all about orienting the reader to the plan itself. Remember, this is a public-facing plan. We want to make sure that it's easy to understand and accessible for anyone who should pick it up. So there's overview information about what the plan is, what CRTPO is, how the MTP helps to implement transportation improvements across the region, and then also dives into some of the federal regulations that drive the planning process to create some awareness about that as well. Our second chapter is all about our public engagement. I know you've heard it at previous meetings, but we had a really robust public engagement process for the 2055 MTP. Big kudos to the CRTPO staff, which helped lead that effort, going all across the 3-county region planning area to meet people where they're at. We had a really robust digital engagement process as well. So we want to document not just the process, the tools and activities conducted as part of the 2055 MTP, but also the results. Talk about what we heard and how it actually influenced the development of the plan. So we break down our process and approach at a really high level, talk about the tools we used and how we created awareness about the plan itself. We want to give reference to the many boards and committees, including this group, that helped to guide that process. And then we break down our engagement into 3 specific phases. And so if you remember, our first phase was all about understanding the kind of vision and needs for transportation around the region. Phase 2 was all about reporting back what we heard in phase 1 and also getting feedback on that fiscally constrained roadway project list. And then phase 3 will be about actually vetting the plan itself. And so you see an asterisk there across phase 3. What that's indicating is essentially that within the initial draft that's available for public comment, we will be currently in phase 3 of public engagement. So there's a little bit of a placeholder in that section for now. Once we go through phase 3, the public comment period, we'll update that section before final adoption. Chapter 3 is what we call the state of the region. This is essentially a documentation of all of the transportation conditions, trends, data points that are most meaningful to telling the story of transportation and mobility in the CRTPO planning area. And so, of course, it starts with documenting what our existing network looks like today, but also understanding community context, the demographic trends that influence transportation need, that influence the propensity to use different types of modes. We also compare ourselves against other regions around the country, some sort of more similar peer, some more aspirational in size and development. We also call out other regional initiatives that help to fuel transportation implementation development around the region, and then kind of sum it all up with a list of key challenges that really represent where we're trying to address transportation concerns in the future. And that flows directly into chapter 4, which is about how we address our challenges. So we talk through the different tools that we have available to us, kind of at the regional level, tools that were used throughout this planning process, and additionally strategies that can be implemented to address those transportation challenges that we have. You've heard us talk a little bit in the past about the congestion management process, or what we call the CMP. It's a kind of a critical part of developing the MTP, ensuring that we are identifying areas of needed congestion and identifying strategies to address that congestion, as well as that work in hand with the projects that are within the plan. So we give a background on that process, talk about all the coordination and collaboration that went into that. We worked in part with the CRTPO staff here that helped lead the CMP work, as well as the CMP task force that they liaise with. And so we'll highlight the different congested links and corridors that were identified through the CMP process, as well as the strategies to address those congested corridors and the performance measures that we'll use to track our progress as we move towards addressing that congestion. Chapter 6 is focused on the financial part of the 2055 MTP. And so when we've talked about fiscal constraint in the past, identifying all of our revenue sources and financial projections to understand how much money we think will be available within different horizon year bands, we get into all that background, talk through our methodology, and talk through how we performed cost estimations on the various projects, and including escalation and consideration for future year expenditure dollars, and then wrap that up by demonstrating the fiscal constraint within the plan and the breakdown of the various projects across the horizon year bands. And then flowing directly into Chapter 7, which is all about the projects themselves. And so we'll focus on the different types of investments needed to address our challenges around the region, or I should say the process for identifying projects to be included within the 2055 MTP, the evaluation process, working closely with our roadway ranking review committee, and we'll go into detail about the prioritization process itself, the methodology that went into that, and then we'll highlight the actual projects themselves. And so there'll be a series of project tables and maps across different modes to represent the projects that are within the plan, those that are fiscally constrained, and representative of the unconstrained sort of visionary set of projects as well. Chapter 8 is all about making sure that we're set up well to track our progress, right? So we're identifying performance measures across the recommendations of the plan, incorporating performance-based planning tools within the MTP and ongoing, and ensuring that there is a plan and process in place for performance management for the plan and across the CRTPO region. Then finally, we bring it home with Chapter 9. This is our future considerations chapter, where we go into a little more depth about how we'll track some of the actions identified within the plan. There's going to be a series of actions, strategies, and recommendations within the plan that'll all be housed within this chapter. We'll talk about other implementation activities that might be needed to push the plan forward and implement the recommendations of the plan. And we'll identify some high-level best practices for consideration, some innovative approaches that the CRTPO should consider when implementing the plan itself. And we'll actually look ahead towards the 2060 MTP. So we'll identify some potential recommendations for improving that process, or improving the recommendations within that plan will all be captured here. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit about our third phase of engagement. You heard me reference it briefly when I was talking about the engagement chapter. Just to kind of recap, our first phase was conducted last year. It was all about understanding kind of vision and needs. Where is the community feeling like there are, what's working well in our network? Where are there issues that we need to be aware of? Second phase was all about getting feedback on the draft recommendations, essentially the fiscally constrained project list for the plan itself. And we're really critical, or I should say, we're really intentional about creating a little bit of a feedback loop within our engagement. So we're not just bringing new recommendations to the public in phase 2, we're bringing that with a report back, an understanding of the results that we heard during phase 1, how that influenced directly the recommendations that were developed and showcased during the second phase. And then phase 3 that we're looking at for early next year, target dates are January 12th, 2026 through February 10th, 2026. That will all be about putting the plan out there and allowing the public to review and to validate the plan itself. So phase 3, like I said, we're gonna report back what we heard in phase 2, make sure that there's a clear narrative line drawn between what we've heard in the previous phases how we got to phase 3, the development of the plan itself, and then we'll put the plan out for public review via digital and in-person means. And so we got a variety of different kind of tools and activities at our disposal that we use during phase 3, some of which are similar to what we've used in phases 1 and 2 as well. We'll lean on our digital engagement, and we'll do digital surveys and allow for open-ended comments on the plan organized by chapter. And we'll also be conducting a couple of different webinars. And so we will have these scheduled for the public to show up to, where they can hear a presentation on the plan itself before they give feedback through our activities if they wish. We're going to be conducting one webinar in English and one in Spanish, and both will be recorded and placed onto the CRTPO website for those who weren't able to attend. We'll also be looking to do presentations in person across the planning area. And so we are asking for help from this group and others to let us know if there are events in your communities that you feel like the 2055 MTP could have a presence at, whether it's to create awareness about the availability of the plan online, or to even give a presentation at any municipal boards or neighborhood groups or local community centers that might be interested in that. With that, I'll turn it back to Neil.
Thanks, Nat. So air quality conformity determination, we've conducted a round of air quality conformity with the adoption of the 2026-2035 tip. So I want to state that the conformity determination is different for the adoption of the 2055 MTP. And we have to do this because we're in a maintenance area for non-attainment for ozone. And that's underway for the 2055 fiscally constrained project list. And we conduct this concurrently with the Cabarrus-Rowan MPO and the Gaston-Cleveland-Lincoln MPO because they're on the same MTP adoption schedules. And that draft conformity determination report will be available in January. It'll also be presented kind of side by side with the draft 2055 MTP because a conformity determination report is required for us to adopt an MTP. And then closing out with the schedule, again, we're here to authorize the release of the MTP when it's ready for public comment. Phase 3 of public engagement is anticipated to begin January 12th and conclude on February 10th. And then adoption of the 2055 MTP and the conformity determination is anticipated for the March board meeting. So with that, this is the requested action before the board. We're happy to take any questions that you may have tonight.
Questions for Neil or Nat in regards to the information that we've?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve action items 6, 1, and 2.
So motion on the floor. Got a second? Other discussion? Neil, just if you would remind the public where they'll be able to find this plan.
Yes, so it'll be posted on the 2055mtp.org website. We'll also use our social media accounts to promote when we have the document updated, and we'll use a variety of other media to make all of our member jurisdictions aware of that third phase of public engagement early next year.
Great. So we've got a first and a second. Hearing no other discussion or questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, our FY 2027, gosh, seems so long away, Unified Planning Work Program and our annual budget. Mr. Cook.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Wanted to kick off the process to develop our Unified Planning Work Program tonight. We'll talk about what the UPWP is, our funding that we anticipate for the next fiscal year, some initiatives and issues that we feel that need to be included in the document, and then talk about a schedule. And essentially, the purpose of tonight's presentation is because you're canceling the December meeting and we'll be coming to you with a first draft in January. We wanted to give you just a primer on the UPWP so that when we come to you with the draft in January, it won't be a terrible surprise. So to the point about what is the UPWP, it is our budget, as the chair mentioned. It shows how the federal transportation planning funds that we receive are allocated. It outlines our activities for the fiscal year. It ensures our compliance with federal and state planning requirements. And then at the very end, it is about a transparency. So that's why we talk about this a lot before this board, because it is a substantial amount of money we're talking about. And we want to be as transparent as we possibly can in terms of how those dollars are allocated and how we plan to spend them as an organization. So in terms of funding, you can see there the different programs that support CRTPO's activities, the amounts that were available in the current fiscal year, FY26, and the amounts that are available in FY 2027. So some of this information is relatively new. For the Section 104F funds, PL funds, or planning funds, we're seeing a slight increase over this current fiscal year for FY27. That amount is derived from a formula that provides an amount to all the MPOs throughout the state. And then each year there's a redistribution of funds that are not used by other MPOs in North Carolina. They go back into the pot and they're redistributed to all the MPOs. So that number can fluctuate from year to year, depending upon how much money is available for redistribution. This year it was a little bit more than usual. Then we also supplement those planning funds with a surface transportation block grant to direct attributable funds. We do so in the amount of $1.1 million. That's been consistent for about 5, 6, 7 years at this point. And then the last funding source, the Section 5303 funds, they come from the Federal Transit Administration. And we just learned this information yesterday. We're getting an uptick, a relatively slight uptick in funding for next fiscal year for that program as well. So good news on the funding front. Some of our initiatives and issues that we anticipate contending with as an organization next year, beyond 77, the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. That's a result of the grant that we received last year or earlier this year. Complete Streets, Comprehensive Transportation Plan 2.0, some changes to how we develop the CTP. Grants management is something we always do as an organization, and it's a constant activity. It'll be enhanced next year because of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant and the RAISE grant that we also received. Funding for the Metrolina regional model. We put a lot of money into that each year, but it is fundamental to what we do as an organization. The information that is produced by the model is absolutely critical to this organization or any NPO or organization involved in long-range transportation planning. Public involvement, naturally, the strategic plan. We are updating that document, of course, and I guess we updated it tonight on the consent agenda. And then, of course, the RAISE grant that I mentioned previously. And there are other issues going on as well. You don't see, for example, the TIP on here because that's just an ongoing process, but that is of course, a very important part of what we do as an organization. For schedule, in November, of course, we conducted presentations to a presentation to the TCC earlier this month, and of course, we're here before you tonight. Next month, we'll start finalizing those topics, those issues that need to be identified in the plan, and then start actually putting dollars to the individual task codes that make up the work program. In January, as I mentioned earlier, we'll come back to you with a first draft. We'll finalize those task code allocations that month as well. And we will do so in time to submit a draft to North Carolina DOT by the end of January. February drafts coming to the Technical Coordinating Committee and to you, and then adoption in March, if all goes as scheduled. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Cook? It's great to hear that there's going to be a little bit more money available.
A little
Hopefully.
bit, yes.
Keep building on that. Great.
Good, thank you.
See you back in January, it sounds, with a
Yes.
additional update. Great. And item number 8, our joint legislative priorities support project, and Andy Graminsky, right?
Grimsky.
Hey, I was close.
Easier
I
than it
had the
looks.
G right. Right.
Very good.
Andy's with the Central Line Regional Council. So Welcome, Andy. Good to see you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for having us here today. I want to spend a few minutes talking about a new initiative that's going to be occurring between the CRTPO and the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO. Today, I also have Tori Dellinger, who is the MPO administrator for the GCO MPO. And at your desk, I put a letter from Tommy Green, who is the chair of the GCO MPO. So since 2018, CRTPO and GCO MPO have been having joint meetings, usually in the spring, and it's really just an opportunity to kind of exchange ideas, talking about issues that face both MPOs, and really promote the regional collaboration, and also try to strengthen bonds between the two MPOs, because while the Catawba River is a border between the two MPOs, obviously the problems of mobility and so forth don't stop at that line. So with that said, I want to spend a few minutes talking about our sister MPO, GCO MPO. It's also 3 different counties, Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, a little over 1,100 square miles, approximately 13 million daily VMT. I think what's really a surprising number, at least it was to me, is that over 30% of the workers commute to Mecklenburg County. And also think about it that connections between Mecklenburg and Gaston are substantially less than you may have connections between Mecklenburg and Iredell or Union and so forth. There's really only 4, I believe, connections. So there's a lot of traffic moving in those corridors. So they also have several different transit systems, being microtransit, fixed route, and demand responsive. So again, very similar to a lot of the issues facing CRTPO. So it's really good to talk about those similarities and see about how we can maybe address these issues together. So with that, so I think we know that growth is continuing. It's not slowing down. It's on both sides of the river, but funding is not keeping up. So we need to look at different ways of trying to solve the mobility issues. As Bob mentioned, there's a variety of regional mobility plans underway, and they really affect both sides of the river and really call for that collaboration. So at the last joint MPO meeting, which is back in February, and hopefully I think a few of you participated, the comments we received afterwards were, this is great, but why just wait and talk once a year? Are there things we can do throughout the year to really push that thing? So the first is really understand opportunities to amplify the region's voice. Also identify and define those shared policy priorities that both MPOs are facing. And last is advance the issue of transportation funding and regional collaboration outside of the annual joint meeting. So what is being proposed is the joint legislative priority support effort, which both MPOs will work together with Central Line of Facilitating to lead an effort to form a cross-MPO coalition. A couple of focus areas will be there's a variety, there's federal authorization coming down the pike. There's always going to be state legislation affecting transportation. Really identify those and make sure these both bodies are really brought up to speed and kept up to date on the different legislative and policy proposals that are out there. Second is try to facilitate the development of a joint MPO priority project list. There are projects that cross our MPO boundaries, so how do we kind of make sure those remain priorities and how do we advance them through the transportation planning process? So the plan is that 3 to 4 MPO board members, I think we came down with 4 members per MPO, including the chair, will be identified. And then we'll start having coalition meetings early next year and hopefully have 3 or so throughout the winter and spring and have an update at the next regional roundtable when it occurs. I think with that, that's really kind of an update. If any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Andy? It's a quiet group tonight. Super. All right, Andy, we'll look forward to this kicking off the first of the year with the appointments on that committee and let's move some things together.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks. All right, we are sailing right along. Agenda item number 9, our CRTPO discretionary funds 2025 annual call summary. Andrew Van Treska, bring us good news, Andy.
I will do my best. All right, thank you, Board and Madam Chair. Hope everybody's well tonight. It's been a while since I've been in front of the board, and I guess I have the ability to draw a crowd now. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. But we do want to discuss our discretionary grants program with the 2025 annual call summary. So tonight's purpose is to provide a summary of the applications we've received and also the amounts of the annual call. And also just to remind the board that we're not going to request action on this until February 26th. So you'll be seeing this a couple times in the coming months. So just a little bit of background about the 2025 call. The call opened on August 18th and it closed on October 31st. That was the time period which your TCC reps could submit projects. In December of this year, at the time of our normal TCC meeting, we'll have a TCC workshop. And if you recall, the POC was dissolved. So this TCC workshop will now act as a POC, and we'll review the applications at that time and create a recommended projects list that we'll bring to you in January. In January, we'll bring forward an informational report for the board with the recommended projects. And then again, in February, we look to request action and hope the board will approve what we recommend. So this is our available funding. As you can see, I do want to point out, pay attention to the fiscal year 29, 30, and 31. We've got funds for those 3 fiscal years that total a little bit over $51 million. And the reason I say pay attention to those 3 years is because I'll be bringing it up again on a couple more slides. But the thing to notice about this is we do have a total of 51 million in order to allocate this time around. So this is a summary of our applications. We have 4 new highway projects, 2 existing shortfalls for highway projects, 5 new bicycle and pedestrian projects, 1 project that's a bicycle pedestrian requesting that's got an existing shortfall requesting additional funds. And we've had 5 planning projects that were submitted. So we do have a total of 17 projects, and the total requested for this is a little bit over $31 million. So this slide shows the difference between what has been requested and what we have. And I mentioned that keep in mind the fiscal year 29, 30, and 31. The reason I mentioned that is because that's the year that these funds will be programmed. So though we have 20 million in surplus over what was requested, these funds are going to roll over to next year. So we're not losing these funds at all. So we'll have a nice little pot that we know, kind of a cushion next year when the call opens. So just something to keep in mind. But I just want to stress we are not losing this $20 million. This is regarding our funding targets. So anybody that's familiar with our discretionary fund policy knows we have some targets where 80% of available funds are targeted to be towards highway and intersection projects. 20% of funds are targeted to be towards bicycle and pedestrian projects. And then we look at about 1% or roughly $500,000 towards planning studies. What this slide is showing is we've only had 15.8 million requested for total highway funds, which falls way short of our 40 million, which would have been 80% of the 51 million that we had available. So we do have a surplus of about 25 million for highway and intersection projects. And then with bicycle and pedestrian projects, we had about 15 million, almost the same amount that was applied for. The target was 10.2 million. So with what we have applied for, the deficit's about 5 million if we're looking at our targets. And we do have a deficit as well with the planning studies. 1% would have been about 515,000. We've got 604,000 that have been closer to 605,000 that have been requested. So summary of the projects. These are our roadway projects. We do have 2 shortfall projects requesting additional funds. One of them comes from Mooresville, and that's their East-West Connector project, asking for additional 1.5 million. And the other one comes from Waxhaw with their Kensington Drive improvements, roughly $400,000. And then we have 1 new corridor project that was submitted by the town of Mooresville. This is the Talbot Street widening project. This is requesting about 8.7 million. And the last 3 are new intersection projects. One from Huntersville, the Irvin Cook Road Extension and Roundabout project. One from Matthews, the Hargett Road and Sam Newell Road intersection improvement projects. And then the last one is from Wesley Chapel. Now this is Newtown Road and Billy Howie Road intersection. This is an NCDOT sponsored program, and you can see the amount they're asking for on the slide. Again, the totals are 15.8 million. The bicycle and pedestrian projects that have been submitted, we did have 1 shortfall, and that was from the city of Charlotte, and that's for the I-277 Rail Trail pedestrian bridge. They're looking for an additional 2.5 million for this project. The rest are new projects. We've got a Monroe Street sidewalk project from the town of Matthews, Irwin Creek Greenway project from Mecklenburg County, Circle Drive shared use path from the city of Monroe, and then two from Mooresville, the Terrace Road sidewalk project and the Lake Norman High School pedestrian bridge project. Total was 14.9 million as mentioned earlier. And then the last are the planning projects that have been submitted. We did have 5 projects submitted. First one being from the Central Lina Regional Council. This is best practices using the Metrolina Community Viz model. We've got one from Cornelius, Bailey Road, NC 115 intersection study. 2 from Huntersville. One is a downtown transportation plan. The second would be the Seam Trail Phase 2. And then the last one from Mooresville and Iredell County. And this is a micro transit feasibility study. Total for these was 604, closer to $605,000. So as a review, the annual call upcoming events. I had mentioned that we're going to have the TCC workshop in December, and this will take place at the POC. So we'll have the recommended project list for you in January. In January, both the TCC and the board will have their first look at the recommended project list, and that will be an informational item. And then in February, we hope to get action from the board to approve whatever the recommended project list shows and amend the TIP as necessary. So with that, that finishes my presentation for tonight, and I'll open it up for any questions for you all.
Questions for Andrew?
Quick one.
Yes, Councilmember Driggs.
So given the surplus you're identified in one category and the deficit in others, do we have the latitude to just reallocate?
We do. The discretionary policy guide is a policy document, so it's not binding. And it'll be discussions we have at the TCC workshop in order how we want to do that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are definitely some kind of amendments to that 80-20.
Other questions for Andrew? Is this like the first time we've had more money available for?
This is the first time I remember anything this significant, if we've ever had anything at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess the 1 cent sales tax is going to pay off with having some other monies available on discretionary, right? So good stuff. All right. Well, we will look forward to that list in January and adoption in February. Is that right?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, we are rounding last few items. Agenda item number 10. Neil, help us with our upcoming agenda items.
So as part of the consent agenda action tonight, the board did cancel the December 17th meeting, so we will not have a meeting in December. The next CRTPO board meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 21st. So that agenda is anticipated to include an action item on the election of officers and then information reports regarding the 2055 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the FY 2027 Unified Planning Work Program, performance-based planning safety targets, and then what we just heard, the discretionary grant program, will be bringing to you a draft recommended project list. I do have a few announcements before we move on. So member jurisdictions with CRTPO board delegates and alternates that are not returning in 2026 are encouraged to have replacements named as soon as they have been appointed within your jurisdiction. So we're looking to municipal managers, clerks, or TCC members to contact me as soon as new delegates or alternates are known, so that information regarding the 2026 board meeting schedule and the orientation can be provided. Out of our 44 voting members, 11 are not returning next year. And then the 2026 CRTPO orientation for new and returning board members is scheduled for Thursday, January 15th here in room 267. We're anticipating a 6 o'clock start, and dinner will be served. And then I do want to turn it over to two CRTPO staff members for brief announcements. So I'll turn it over to Brian Elgort, CRTPO, if Brian's in the room. Okay, then we'll move on to Bob Cook.
Wanted to quickly introduce Emily is maybe Emily is outside the room too. It's a little bit different. If Emily is in the back room, if she could come out, I just wanted to introduce you to our newest staff member. Emily Gerganis started with us 2 weeks ago. There she is. Emily started with us about 2 weeks ago now, I think it is, and a recent grad, a Carolina grad. She's joining us as an associate planner. She's filling the position that Will was in before his promotion, and she's going to be helping us with in the associate planner position, virtually everything, all the different activities we're involved with. I think she'll have her hands in all those pots, and we are very excited about having her join us and provide us with the assistance we need with all those different tasks. 2026 is going to be a busy year, starting with the orientation, and she's already helping us with that. So I'm very happy to have Emily join us. So thank you.
To speak.
Yep, and next up is Brian Elgort.
Good evening. On behalf of AMPO, which is our national organization for MPOs, they, along with other members of the Local Officials in Transportation Coalition, which includes the National League of Cities, the counties, development organizations, the Mayor's League, and several other organizations, sent a letter to the Senate and the House regarding the federal surface transportation reauthorization process. And we will be sharing that letter out with you after this meeting for your information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide more information.
That's all I have.
Yeah, right. All right, we'll move on to our NCDOT division updates. Is Mark gonna offer any update for Division 12, or are we just moving right on to Division 10? Okay, so everybody's got a copy of that on Division 12. So Felix, Division 12, there, sorry. Welcome, Felix, good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Like you're gonna have us an update, maybe some information for the folks that are here.
Yep. Can you guys hear me? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Felix Obregon. I'm with NCDOT, the Division 10 engineer. So I've got some updates for y'all on two very important projects for Division 10 of the region on I-77 South, as well as the 485 express lanes. So I would like to take a minute and provide some updates on the two public meetings held last week for the I-77 South express lanes. The first one we held was on Wednesday at Johnson C. Smith University towards the northern end of the project. And the second one was on Thursday at Silvermount Baptist Church towards the southern part of the project. The venues were set up open house with large preliminary plan maps, several large touch screens with interactive maps and 3D renderings. Attendees were able to walk around, explore the project in more detail, and ask staff questions, and more importantly, provide their feedback. And then right here, just a reminder, this is the project website, as well as where folks can go and provide feedback about the project. And then we also have the local officials meeting earlier on both days. All right, so one of the things that we know, this is a very transformative project. It's gonna touch a lot of folks. Again, we have about 160,000 daily drivers on this segment of I-77. So we wanted to do a good job in making sure that folks knew about the I-77 South Express Lane projects. So we did 3 press releases. There were 29 articles associated with the project itself. There was 77,000 social media views of the 77 South project, almost 30,000 social media engagements with the articles. We also did 11 social media posts. Out of those, it reached 8,500 reactions, comments, shares, and more information. And from that, really, it touched 221,000 people. So we definitely want to get the word out to folks to make sure they knew about the 77 project, as well as our public meetings that were coming up. So for both public meetings on the 12th and 13th, we had almost above really 500 attendees for both meetings. Just as a reminder, since the beginning of this year, we have been going around and speaking with the different neighborhoods and other groups. So we spoke with almost 800 plus residents, and we held
about 25 meetings. Just some additional statistics from the public meetings. We know that this corridor is very diverse. So we know that as part of that, we have folks that speak different languages. So we had 3 Spanish interpreters and 1 Russian language interpreter at our public meetings. From the attendees, we were able to give out 500 handouts. Those were in English. 100 of those, and then we also gave 100 handouts in Spanish to us, our Spanish-speaking folks. And again, we had already gone out to the community and neighborhoods and spoken to them, so we already had their email account. So one of the things that we did, we also emailed them about the upcoming public meetings, because again, we wanted to make sure we had a good turnout. And that's exactly what happened. We know that folks receive their information in different ways. So what we also did, we also sent out postcards. So we sent 40,000 postcard mailers to folks. Again, different ways to engage folks because everyone receives information differently. As far as the survey, so far we got it online, and we'll also during the public meetings, the online version, 812 folks have viewed the survey. And we've received almost 800 responses from the online survey. From the in-person surveys, we received 139 surveys. So again, I just want to reemphasize the preliminary plans that are online and that were also at the public meetings are preliminary nature. We are looking for options to eliminate impacts to the neighborhoods. I know that's one of the concerns from the neighborhoods during the early neighborhood meetings, but as well during the public meetings, we heard them loud and clear. And one of the concepts that we have out there were concepts that eliminated impacts to those neighborhoods. Again, the engagement does not stop last week. We've already received, and we encouraged residents to ask for additional neighborhood meetings so we could meet with them in person and talk to them about their concerns. So again, a good turnout, good public meetings. The engagement does not stop there. There's definitely a lot more to go. So a little bit about the 45 Express Lanes project. I know this came up at the last meeting. So the current schedule shows the express lanes that are going to be toll integrated in early 2026. Right now, what's controlling the operations is the completion of East John Street as well as the new Weddington Road interchange. We estimate that the express lanes are going to be open by February of 2026. As most of you all know, that's around the time we get a good bit of snow here in the Charlotte area. So that's what we are trying to achieve. There may be some delays, hopefully not, but just that's what we're going for February of 2026. We are trying to implement some wireless tolling solutions to try to get those express lanes opened a little bit sooner. So that is all I have in case you guys have questions.
All right. Can you flip back to the screen that had the contact information about the 77? There you
Yes.
go. Make sure everybody had a chance to take a picture of that or any questions on that. Right. Super. Appreciate you guys taking a picture. And Councilmember Altman or Commissioner Altman, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think because of your presentation, this is probably an appropriate time to go ahead and come forward with what I was going to say. I want to thank everyone who spoke tonight. I want to thank everyone who came but didn't get a chance to come to the podium. Your presence nonetheless speaks volumes. Thank you to everyone who wrote into CRTPO. I read every single letter, and I will be forwarding your letters and your emails to the full Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners. Your voice is being heard. For generations, large infrastructure projects have carried deep and lasting consequences for marginalized communities here, reshaping neighborhoods, displacing families, limiting economic mobility, and often concentrating environmental burdens in places least equipped to absorb them. The I-77 South construction project sits squarely inside that history. which is why we must approach it with urgency and care. Too often, community feedback is gathered but not meaningfully reflected in final decisions. Whether related to environmental impacts like air quality, noise, stormwater, and long-term land use, or financial and economic impacts such as property values, access to jobs, transportation costs, and opportunities for local businesses. That pattern erodes trust. It tells residents that their lived experience matters in theory, but not in practice. Tonight, I'm here to say, on behalf of the Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners, that we refuse to allow that cycle to continue. We want to understand exactly what commitments will be made in response to the concerns raised, and how those commitments will be monitored, measured, and honored, including those tied to past harms, environmental health, economic mobility, and financial well-being. Our position is intentional. I convened a meeting on Tuesday with my colleagues and with NCDOT representatives, and appreciate everyone's availability on short notice. Chair Emeritus George Dunlap, Commissioner Townsend Ingram, Commissioner Elaine Powell, and Arthur Griffin were in the room at different parts of the time, as well as County Manager Michael Bryant, Equity and Inclusion Officer LaShawn Carter, and with, as I said, NCDOT representatives to signal that this matters to us collectively. I have briefed the remaining commissioners, and they are all highly engaged on this issue, and I do speak for the Board of County Commissioners in this matter. We will stay engaged, we will watch the process closely, and we will continue to advocate to ensure that every need, every concern, and every voice is addressed, not as an afterthought, but as a fundamental part of shaping what moves this project and Mecklenburg County forward. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Felix? Comments? Great. It's very, very important that everybody that's come here tonight to voice their concerns about the project. You need to be on record with sending your email to the email address on the screen. So yes, your presence is heard here, has seen and felt, but if you want to be on record about the project, you have to send an email to the project website and stay engaged as well as Commissioner Altman has mentioned. So we'll very closely be continuing to watch for the innovation, and as this project goes through a lot of steps that before it ever gets to any kind of action on the, moving dirt and that type of thing. So other board member comments or questions? Stephen Rosenberg?
Your mic.
Usually I don't need a mic, should I? That's probably what flipped me out. I didn't understand that. The board has not made a final decision, of where this will go. There's still a lot of studies to do. And as most people know, that this project will be conducted by a concessionaire who will be the people who put up the money and build the road. And they will have input into what's exactly the best way to build this. So it's far from being settled at this point. Thank you.
Mayor Knox?
Madam Chair, I want to take this moment to acknowledge 30 years of friendship with you and your expertise and your leadership and your role as chair of CRTPO. We will miss you greatly when we reconvene in January. I don't want you to be a stranger because your expertise in this matter does not go unnoticed. And I value your opinion as others should. And I just want you to know we're going to miss you. I'm still going to see you since you're right next door in Mooresville. But I just want you to know how much I appreciate personally your leadership as the chair of this body.
I second that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Knox, yeah.
Oh, very kind. I've told people my schedule now is Mondays, which was normally our board meeting day in Mooresville, will become Margarita Mondays. And Wednesdays, that was always transportation, will be Wine Wednesdays. So I've enjoyed all of you, and it is a lot to be, but I will not be far because there's a lot of, as we feel the passion in the room tonight, transportation needs are huge, and how they impact one another it impacts all of us that sit here too. So I will still be involved in some form or fashion, being focused on we've got to get the best for everyone.
Mayor, are you going to congratulate the chair?
Knox didn't have me following him because I had a couple of comments just about our visitors and about I-77, and but I'll open them with also thanking Chair Qualls for 2 years of chairmanship and several years before that of vice chairmanship and incredibly useful participation. So again, thank you, Madam Chair. We will miss your expertise and your guidance on this board. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments to acknowledge, first of all, thank you to Neil for sending the emails, which we received this afternoon. So I did have a chance to read over some of them. And I'll admit that we're a very diverse board geographically. I come from Mineral Springs, so I'm very far from the old communities in West Charlotte, the Wesley Heights and McCrory Heights communities, places like that. I know they're there, but we do need that type of awareness brought to us. As the project evolves, some of these things maybe they're at the technical side and we don't see all of them. So we do need to hear from you. I do want to say that one thing that really didn't seem to come up a lot in the I-77 North, probably because of the geography of it, was all about we don't want to pay tolls. This was not really about we don't want to pay tolls. This was about what's happening on the ground to our community, what's happening to the fragmentation of our community. It's a different problem, it seems, or a different opportunity. I don't know what you'd call it. Unfortunately, it's not theoretical. We've seen it in Charlotte for the past 60 or 70 years. And not just Charlotte, but we have it prominently featured in Charlotte. Maybe it started with the loss of Brooklyn 60 years ago. Maybe one of the first of the destructions of an intact, tight community. And then followed 10 and 15 years later by the 77 construction, the 277 construction that split neighborhoods, split the city. We've been hearing for 20 years, couldn't we bury 277? It did such damage to our continuity, and nothing's happened. But the visitors here made me think, well, we're trying to think about burying 277, but we're going to widen a gap even worse between those communities. So I really hope, and I'm glad that Felix was here. I mean, I'm not one of the experts. I'm just a board member who comes from far away from Charlotte, but appreciates the concerns and the damage and the opportunities to communities. And I was thinking big dig when I was reading the emails, and I said, that was 30 years ago and technology has changed. I'm not prepared to recommend that this board cancel the 77 project. I think that I don't think any amount of transit can deal with the through traffic that 77 carries, the traffic from South Carolina to Virginia to West Virginia. I think it's too crowded a corridor to say we can replace it all with transit and other alternative transportation. But I think we maybe have to hopefully find a way to fine tune it a little bit. I think, and Felix could clarify, this is so, as Board Member Rosenberg said, this is far from set in stone. And I do believe that even from a technical standpoint, as we get RFPs out there, this may be a lot of design build components to this project. So things can be designed actually several years from now. So we have time, I think, not to stop the project, but to look at some serious big changes. I don't know what happens south of Remount or maybe Clanton, where we don't seem to have such a collection of tight-knit communities. Maybe there's less of a concern with widening there. And maybe you're doing a big dig or some alternative in a 2 or 3 mile stretch where we'd really like to preserve that continuity of community in your city. I think that makes Charlotte the city it is. So maybe it's got to be handled in pieces. And I trust our NCDOT people.
I trust the expertise in this room, that it's not us, it's the people sitting over there, the planners, the engineers, the people who really know what they're doing. We just try to get information from them and make decisions based on what they say. So I'm looking forward to maybe revisiting a few of the ideas and seeing if we can help some of these communities. And I thank the people for coming. I thank Neil for giving us a little advance notice so we could read over some of the material before we got there. So thanks again. And yes, Madam Chair, thank you for your years of service.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor Baker. Okay, Mayor Hickton.
Yeah, I know I'm preaching to the choir for folks on this board, but last week I had a business meeting in Atlanta and I decided it would be wise to drive instead of going to the airport. And that probably was a mistake. I left Matthews at 3:30 in the morning and arrived in the outskirts of Atlanta, about 20 miles from my destination, at 7 o'clock for an 8 o'clock meeting, and I was late. 8 lanes of traffic, gridlock traffic for 20 miles. The next day, I decided to come home, leave the conference early. I said, I'm going to leave at 2:30, so I'll miss the traffic. 2:30, gridlock traffic, 8 lanes all the way across, another hour to drive 20 miles leaving Atlanta. So I guess the point of saying this is we don't want to be Atlanta. So we got to do better, but it's terrible. It's worse than Los Angeles. I mean, it's the worst traffic I've ever seen ever. It's just gridlock traffic, 8 and 10 lanes across in all directions. I guess I'll fly next time.
May I, Madam Chair? Any board member want to speak nicely of the chair, this would be the time. I'm getting ready to do the formal presentation. So, in fact, may we do it up at the front, Lisa? Mary Knox, you said you've known her 30 years. I haven't. Would you join me?
What you when I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
A young buck coming from a hospital. Yes, they got hair there, right?
I talked with the staff. I'm Brad Richardson from the town of Stallings, served as your vice chair this past year. Let me just take just a moment to say goodbye to Lisa. This is her last meeting. I'll do so by just citing a few accomplishments and things she's worked on the past 4 years she's been here. She's been representing Mooresville since the start of COVID, so she was really instrumental in getting this board through a very instrumental time of virtual meetings, public input through videos. We all lived that, right, at work and at church and at home. We did it here as well. Lisa helped shepherd us through that process. She was vice chair 2022 and 2023. In the last 2 years, she served as our chair. Just a list of things. I asked the staff to tell me some of the things she's worked on. We all live through them, but we often forget them. She's guided us through the public-private partnership discussions and the improvements that we've made to the vendor contract that's being let now. We had a lot of discussion tonight about that. We forget she led efforts to revise and reaffirm the memorandum of understanding that we do once a decade. She spoke at the 2024-2025 North Carolina Transportation Summit and oversight to the MTP. We do a lot of acronyms here, Metropolitan Transit Plan. She helped guide that process. The TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. She updated our strategic plan, represented us on the Connect Beyond and Beyond 77 committees, and she currently is serving with me on a staffing and resources study. Those are all things she's done. And I asked the staff, what's the most important thing she's done? The answer was clear. She's been available. She's a busy woman. She's a professional working woman, as we all are. She's been available to the staff for questions, for comments, for input. She's helped put board agendas together, and she's just shepherded the staff as well. So on behalf of the board, on behalf of the staff, let me just pause for a moment, present her this box. I have no idea what's in the box.
Is it wine? No.
It's not wine, but show your appreciation for Lisa.
Sincere.
Thank you.
I think it's a transponder for the toll lanes.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll be we'll be very brief. That this is a great group that when I started, it seems like a long time ago, learning the acronyms was the biggest challenge. So thank you to the staff for their patience over the years and all my dumb questions of like, now remind me again what that does. So we've gotten a lot done. There's a lot more to do, and I am confident that this board and the new members that will join will get that done in each of our communities and collectively. And you know, we still live in an incredible area. And I came from Ohio in 1999, 98, I guess. And I got here as quick as I could. And I love this area. Yes, it's painful. Growth is painful. But I'm really happy in Mooresville that I don't have to drive to Charlotte for everything that I need, especially now, because it's expensive. And believe me, I complain all the time to our friends at the Mobility Partners how expensive it is. But thank you all. We're going to get a lot more done going forward. As I said, I'm not going to be gone because I am a constituent now. And we've got to do better, as all of our guests tonight that came to speak. So thank you for your passion, and I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. There's nothing else. We've got a motion. Second, all those in favor say aye. Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday. All right. Hey, thanks.
What is this?